It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are here. Holy cow, Microsoft's putting PowerShell on Linux and Mac OS. Windows 10 anniversary update breaks millions of webcams, and a fix for the Surface Pro 3's battery issues. This is an amazing episode coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 480, recorded Wednesday, August 24th, 2016. Webcamgate. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Carbonite. Keep your business safe this year. Protect files on your computer or server with automatic cloud backup from Carbonite. Try it free without a credit card at Carbonite.com today. And use the offer code WINDOWS to get 2 free bonus months if you decide to buy. And by the Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your home. Go to ring.com/WW and get up to $150 off a Ring of Security kit with this limited time offer. And by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to more than 100 plus job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter free at ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest goop from Microsoft. And we're in a little bit of a different environment today because we're still building my office back piece by piece. Many people don't realize my office was made of Lego.
Better than the first one that was made of straw.
Yes, and sticks. Hey, that's... Wait a minute, let me look at the right direction. Paul Thurrott of Thurrott.com.
Where is he? Oh, there he is.
He's over on my right shoulder, your left. THURROTT.com.
Yep.
Now with premium quality content. And on my left, Mary Jo Foley, all about Microsoft.com. Hey guys.
Hey.
We since last week we kind of moved to a new building.
Yes, we heard that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it worked.
It looks like it went okay.
It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
And next week I'll be back in my office. My office was the last thing to get moved, and they're still piecing it together. But my office is going to look. You will not know the difference if you tune in. If you skip a week, and just tune in next week, and you go. Not that you should skip this week. But the other thing I realized, because I was listening at home to Security Now, which we did yesterday, and if you don't watch, I shouldn't even say anything because you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Audio's the same. Anyway, hi guys, good to see you.
You too.
Linux is just getting better and better, and it's thanks to Microsoft.
That's fulfilling a lifelong dream of mine, Leo.
Is it? You really want PowerShell on your Arch distro? It's an interesting idea. Now, I read this, and they're open sourcing PowerShell.
Right.
Yeah.
And because they're open sourcing it, it will work on Linux and OS 10, which is really interesting. Didn't we kind of get that feeling when who was it we were talking to?
It is. Remember we had Jeffrey Snover
right.
on the show?
And Jeffrey
Paul and I were asking him.
Yeah, you pestered him. You peppered him.
Well, no, I remember that if you're going to manage Linux VMs from a Azure host or locally, whatever, you need that connectivity. You need that glue. You need to manage them, automate them from the same thing using PowerShell. It's obvious that they would need this.
Yep.
Is it, maybe I'm asking the wrong people, is it a replacement for the Bash shell? Could I use it as my day in, day out shell?
It's funny. I asked him that same question when I got to talk to him.
Yeah.
And I'll give you his exact quote. I'm looking at it in my notes even. I said, what about PowerShell versus Bash? You know, what about it?
Yeah.
And he said, they're not really head-to-head competitors, right?
Right.
But he said
Not yet.
existing PowerShell users who need to manage heterogeneous estates will want this. People using management tools like Operations Management Suite will want this. And he said, the Linux tools don't work on Windows, right? So if you want to use PowerShell, you get the best of both worlds. And if you care more just about the Linux tools, but not Windows, then maybe you won't care as much.
So I don't actually know enough about PowerShell at this point to even know whether this is the case or not. But it seems to me that you couldn't live inside PowerShell 100% of the time, even on Windows, right? It's a very specific environment, isn't it? I mean, isn't it very specifically designed for, you're managing machines, you're managing users, you're managing whatever resources.
Well, yeah, but it has, LS to list directories.
Yeah, well, but it has
CD.
to. But I don't really think that was the point of it, right?
Right. He said, here's what Jeffrey Snover said. I said, obviously you must have used Bash too, right? And he said, before I tried to do PowerShell, because he's the father of PowerShell, he said, I failed using Bash.
It might have been the inspiration.
Yeah, he said, Ocgrep said, they're great for open source developers, but they don't really work well for managing. And we are an API-oriented operating system. Linux is a document-oriented operating system, so that's why I did PowerShell.
There's in the Linux community, there's some upset over PowerShell because they replaced well-known Linux utilities like curl and wget with kind of stubs in Windows. I'm not sure what will happen when they move to Linux or OS X for that matter. You'd really want to use the native tools. But I think that's not a big thing to fix.
They also built their own scripting environment for Linux.
Yeah, and also all shells are two things. They're your command line interface, just like DOS is, to list directories, to move to directories, copy files, delete files. But for most people, the real power of the shell is in the scripting capability. So Bash is a scripting language, not a good one. It's a really arcane and frankly outdated scripting language. That's people use Z shell or other shells. I like something called Fish. But those are in most OS X and Linux environments. You can just pick the shell you want to use. You can still do most of the all the same commands or some slight variances, and then you script in it. And that's really why people would choose one shell over the other as a scripting language. And PowerShell has a really good scripting language. That would be, I would say, feature. I'd have to really look at it, but feature complete. Did they say?
If it's going to be exact feature.
Well, no, but I think it'd be feature complete in Linux. That you could use it as your full-time shell. I would.
So
think.
You could actually use it as the shell.
Yeah. That was my only question. Could I replace Bash, just as I've replaced Bash
completely,
now with Fish? Right? Could I replace Bash with PowerShell? And if somebody's up. There's an argument that PowerShell is really a more modern scripting language, and it would really be preferable to Bash. People just use Bash because that's what it comes with, kind of.
Right. So what they did was how we talked before about .NET Core versus
that's
.NET
the
Framework?
problem. It's .NET, isn't it?
Right. So it's .NET Core ported to Linux, ported to OS X. And that's what they're running on top of. But this is the same version of PowerShell that also is going to be on Nano Server in Windows Server 2016. So it's not like they only use that for Linux and Mac. They also are using it for Nano Server and Windows Server. So it's I don't know if I would call it a subset, but it's slightly different than the .NET Framework PowerShell.
Okay, that's right. And I wonder if this is Mono. Like the acquisition of Mono was critical for that, because Mono was originally created as a Linux.NET.
Yeah, I think it's more .NET Core, and Mono is now, I believe, using .NET Core.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or there's some connection between the two. I can't quite remember.
Yeah. Obviously, if you're using .NET or if you're using you're maintaining Windows servers or you're doing Windows VMs or whatever, PowerShell makes sense. I'm just curious if it would make sense for somebody in an OS X or Linux environment just as a plug-in replacement for their shell.
I'm looking through my notes as we're doing the show. One thing he also mentioned, Jeffrey Snover, is he said there's one key difference between PowerShell on Linux and Windows, and it's the individual commandlets. That's something that is different between the two.
Those are hardware specific, probably, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He also noted that this is alpha version on Linux and Mac OS 10. So there's going to be a lot of work between now and several quarters from now when they actually say this is production.
Right.
But yeah,
you can go to the GitHub and compile it. And
you can
play with it if you want to.
Right. And besides releasing this, they also released the source code for the Windows version of PowerShell too, which is kind of crazy.
Ironically, it was written in Visual Basic.
Yeah, no. Tell me it's not. Tell me it's not.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, like how far they went, right?
Yeah.
He was excited. Jeffrey Snover was super excited about this.
I bet he is.
Because, he's the father of PowerShell. He wants more people to use PowerShell. Yep. I'm
just saying that the shell languages like TC shell and Z shell and Bash on Linux and OS 10 are they're old-fashioned. Fish, which is the one I use, its tagline is bring your terminal command line into the 90s.
That's great.
So
that's good.
It would be interesting, I think very interesting, if a big company like Microsoft put its resources behind a better shell. And it would be a really interesting stealth maneuver, a wedge into open source and even OS 10. If they did, I could see, if it really is complete, people maybe just using it, even if they don't need to use Windows, right?
I don't know. Don't you think there's an ingrained rejection?
Yes.
Because
yes.
Right.
And it's not, it is open source though. How did they license it? Do you know? Is it GPL, LGPL?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't look at the actual thing, but you can on GitHub. But they said the commandlets are not open source for Windows.
Yes, I understand that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I actually didn't look at which license.
Let me look at the GitHub and see what license. It's MIT license, which is nice. That's actually a very fairly flexible license. Although Richard Stallman's not going to embrace PowerShell probably anytime soon.
No.
Well, I don't know. Okay. It's free.
It doesn't.
It's open source.
I was just reading an article that something like 80 or 90% of the Linux core developers now are working for being paid by a company to do it. The idea that it's just some guy in his basement writing this code is very old time. So nowadays it is companies working on Linux.
Richard Stallman would get to the third line of that license where it says all rights reserved. He'd be like, nope.
Well, that's what's interesting. It's a little incompatible. PowerShell 6 copyright Microsoft Corporation, all rights reserved, and then MIT license. Those two don't go together. I would guess they're maybe, I don't know, the copyright is for the name. I don't know. But anyway.
They said, Jeffrey said they have PowerShell. This is an interesting quote. PowerShell is like a little operating system unto itself. There are over 30 patents involved.
That's right.
Right. So it's not, in open sourcing it, they have to be careful not to open source anything that's Windows, right? Because they don't want to open source Windows, I don't think, at least not at this point.
In fact, it's shocking that they open source PowerShell, because a lot of times when you have proprietary software, you have proprietary concepts in the software, like Simone's Hungarian notation and stuff, which everybody knows, but things like that are Microsoft tools that they, or
I don't know.
They don't want anybody to see their commenting style.
No, this stuff this is heavily cleaned before it goes out.
Yeah,
I bet
somebody edited
an automated thing that it cleans up the formating, cleans up the naming, gets rid of all the comments.
Oh, they hired an editorial team to rewrite everything. Of course. Take out the jokes. Windows ain't done till Lotus won't run. Those kinds of things.
Right.
Take that stuff out.
For some reason in the PowerShell, it's boilerplate at Microsoft. It just goes out in all code.
But the reason I ask all those questions is I'm curious what this strategically is for Microsoft. Do they see it as a wedge into the open source community? Do they see it as a way of embracing? Or just, hey, here's a tool that Windows users need, and we want to make it available to them in Azure, Linux installs.
What Snover said to that, I said, why?
Yeah.
He said, when we talk to our customers, this is what they tell us they want.
It's the same reason you put Bash in Windows, right?
Yeah, that's what he says.
Customers want it.
Customers need to manage a diverse set of platforms, it's better if they can do it with a single tool instead of switching.
Clearly right. This is clearly the point. The other stuff is going to be circumstantial. If for some reason some group of people embraces this and it snowballs in some other direction, that would be interesting. But this has to be all it's about. It's really just we've provided this one solution. We have to go 100% of the way, or it's not one solution.
When Windows 10 was announced and we were starting to get ready for Windows 10, I actually bought a book on PowerShell. I was excited about learning it. And it's from what I'm not really deep into it, but from what I can tell, it would be great to have that as a new scripting language on Linux and OS 10. Really, it's an interesting thing.
Do you use Sublime, Leo?
I do. I love Sublime. Yeah.
It works with Sublime, PowerShell on Linux.
So they have a Sublime. That sounds to me like what they're saying is we have a Sublime plugin that does syntax highlighting, correction, maybe auto completion.
So I assume Sublime is like a programmer's editor.
Yeah,
on Linux.
It's a really nice programmer's
Linux editor.
Yeah, it's basically like what was that studio we were talking about? Code. It's like Code. In fact, Code looks like Sublime.
Yep.
There's a certain style now to the new editors.
He said, we are also, although it's not ready yet, looking at whether we should also support Emacs and Vim as well. I mean, they're going the whole way, basically.
Whoa.
I know. Yeah.
So, it's actually fairly easy to do Emacs and Vim.
Yeah.
Why not?
He said, if people want it and they ask us, we'll do it.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Yep. Very interesting.
I know. Crazy, right?
You know what? I'm starting I like this new Microsoft. I like this. I think this is right. This is user-centric. And a lot of companies are less and less user-centric. Microsoft, which historically didn't, often injured users to the benefit of their business or what they thought was the benefit of their business, is a complete turnaround. It's user-first Microsoft. It's a brand new day. It's a brand new day. Wow, that's great. I can't wait to play with it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll use it in alpha state. I'll wait a little bit. Yeah. Really interesting. I mean, for a company that was for years, what did they say about Linux? Linux is a cancer.
Yep.
See,
but the people who said that are gone now.
Yeah. Wow.
This is my favorite quote, which I didn't put in my piece, but I should have. Snover said, "Doing what your customers want sometimes makes for strange bedfellows."
Yeah, but that's right.
Like you.
Yeah, but that's right.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. I'm excited.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Webcamgate in a second. Brace yourselves. I'm really curious what happened here and why it wasn't caught in the long public beta. But before we do that, Paul, that's a tease, Paul. Don't give away
This is what happened, Leo.
Don't give away the store, Paul. I want people to listen to this fine commercial before we find out.
Let me just say this.
Yes.
No.
Actually, it's as John C. Dvorak has told me many times, Leo, you don't do teases in podcasts. They just skip ahead.
Right. They're listening to a recording.
Right. Right. Oh, I don't want to hear. I want to hear. Oh, let's skip ahead to that part. Sure. That's the good part. Yeah. Don't skip ahead.
Don't oversell it.
I know, really. I got to stop doing teases. Our show today brought to you by Carbonite. Online backup for home, for office, for your small business. Carbonite is a great solution. And by the way, I'm going to be having dinner with the CEO of Carbonite after Twit. He's going to come to Twit on Sunday and after Twit. So if you have questions or comments or something you want me to tell him or ask him, this would be a good time to email leo@twit.tv. Keep your business safe this year. They listen. They really do. In fact, Carbonite was created by a good friend, David Friend. He was the creator of the ARP synthesizer, had kind of semi-retired, right? I mean, he's done many startups, great success. And his daughter's in college, and she calls him and says, Daddy, I lost my term paper, and I don't have a backup. What can I do? And it really bugged him. And he said, we have to step up as an industry and make backup easier. And he invented Carbonite. And it is still, to this day, 10 years later, doing a great job. Automatic, continuous, off-site backup to the Carbonite cloud. Your data is on vacation enjoying the climate-controlled Carbonite Network Operations Center, where it's safe and sound, protected from all harm should you need it. Should there be a fire, a flood, human error, that's frankly not so uncommon, or a ransomware attack. you got it. This is the best part about Carbonite. You know, about 90% now of all spear phishing and phishing attacks are ransomware viruses disguising as an attachment from your bank or from the government or from your friends. You run it, it encrypts your files, and unless you got Carbonite, even if you have a local backup, because it can encrypt your files and then the local backup's got the encrypted files and you're really out of luck. Except Carbonite does versioning on Windows, which means even if it backs up the encrypted file, you can go back to the previous version and say, that's the one. Get rid of the virus, restore your data, and you're good to go, and you don't have to pay hackers anything. Carbonite, over 500 billion, 500 billion files backed up, more than 1.5 million homes and small businesses. Best of all, you pay once a year, or even if you want to pay 2 or 3 years, it's 30% off. There's a real discount. And you forget it. You just set it and forget it. Your data is safe. Carbonite.com. No credit card required for their free trial, and I do encourage you to take advantage of that. But when you sign up for the free trial, use the offer code WINDOWS. That way they'll give you 2 bonus months when you decide to buy. That makes it even more affordable. Carbonite.com. What would it cost you if ransomware bit? Nothing if you have Carbonite. You got to back it up to get it back. Do it right with Carbonite. Use the offer code WINDOWS for 2 months free. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley. We're talking about Windows and Windows 10 and the anniversary update, which caused a number of issues. But the latest is the webcam issue. Is this a gate?
That's how I would have named it, but Brad jumped on this story while I was sleeping. But
what's he call it? Webcamapalooza?
He doesn't know how to name things. But the point is, no, you will remember this because this happened to me. The video would freeze when we started the podcast.
That was it?
The 1080p shift. And so actually, I think the most interesting thing about the story, you kind of alluded to this before the break, this notion of so many millions of people were testing Windows 10.
Know? It didn't break any Microsoft hardware. Right?
Well, actually, it might have. It's not just it's not just this Logitech. It's other webcams as well. It's any webcam that uses H.264 and does 1080p,
which is pretty common, right? That's the 910, right. The 920.
That's where the millions comes from. But here's the thing. This is what bothers me personally because I think this factors into why this wasn't caught, right? Because it's not a process issue, right? Where they have beta testers and, well, I guess Windows insiders, and they have automated machines at Microsoft, banks and banks of machines that are hitting every build and finding different things. But I think this happened to me a couple of months ago, multiple times. And remember, like, the way I went through it was, Skylake was in my head. Like, this is Skylake. Something to do with Skylake. It was on the NUC. And everyone was saying, you got to stop using the NUC, use an older computer. I tried the Surface Book, same exact thing. And I thought, this is Skylake. This is Skylake. And I brought up an older PC I used to use for many years, an older HP Tower. Clean install Windows 10, et cetera, et cetera. Worked fine for a couple of days. A couple of days later, same exact problem. Not Skylake. But of course, we're having the problem in Skype. And of course, the next thing you think is, well, it's Skype. We have, it's really easy to blame Skype, right? When things don't work, Skype is a natural culprit as well. And I have to sort of wonder if this isn't where everyone's head was at, because this never became a big issue during the beta, for lack of a better term, the pre-release cycle. And then someone figured out, and I think someone from Microsoft confirmed, that they had stripped away support for this video codec in Skype and other apps, and in many types of webcams, but the C920 is the big one, I guess. And this is exactly the problem I was having. Raphael, whose brain works in a certain way, sees this and says, well, I know exactly how they would have changed this because they make these kind of changes all the time. And he figured out the registry key you can add to bring back support. It works fine. He figured out a workaround very quickly.
So that's an easy fix.
The interesting thing is
enable frame server mode.
What's that?
It only happens if you're using it with Skype.
Is that true?
Yeah. No, I'm curious.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. But I think Skype would be the big application where people would notice this.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Well, that's because they're using it a lot. But I would guess that a lot of cameras just use what they look for is a driver that gives them video.
Yeah. It always happens. The freezing happens when it does the switch over to 1080p, which I think a lot of people use to troubleshoot in their own minds, like what could be the issue. And I think it's actually because that's when it starts using that codec. That's why that was happening. But, it's interesting to me how many times I had this problem. The other thing that I can't actually explain is I've never run this workaround. So this workaround that Raphael published, I've never used it. Skype works fine. We're using it right now. I'm using it on the NUC. I have no problems. Because I had so many problems with Skype and video freezing, I kept trying different things over the months. And one of the things I finally did was at some point, a couple of days after you clean install Windows 10, you get a little notification. It says something to the effect of you should finish installing the software for your device. And it's for the Logitech thing. And it runs a Logitech software updater that actually doesn't find any new software. It literally says you're running the latest version. But if you run that wizard, that's when it stops working.
Oh.
I can't explain it.
Oh, that's weird.
But I can say on multiple machines, including this NUC, including my Surface Book, and including that PC tower I was talking about, the HP tower, in each of those cases, I just don't ever run that updater, and Skype never stops working.
But it is more than just the Logitech camera that's having this problem.
That's what I understand, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the camera I use with each of those devices.
We've had problems before with Skype. I seem to remember when the switching resolution, because it would do that sometimes because of bandwidth, right? It'll go to a lower resolution, and it'll say, the bandwidth's better, and it'll go back to 1080p. And we've had problems with that before for years, not just with Windows either.
I think all of us would accept if there was some switch where you could say, just use 720p all the time.
Yeah.
The video quality would probably be good enough.
Oh, sure. Even for us, it'd be good enough.
That would prevent this issue, I'd be happy to do that. But that software switch does not exist, at least not for this camera.
How interesting. So that whole time when you were getting those intermittent freezes.
It was an anniversary update problem.
Gosh darn it.
Yeah.
And this, I'm sure Brad covers this in his write-up, but the kind of ham-handed way they handled this was like, we're having this problem with 1080p video in Skype, so rather than fix Skype, let's just turn it off. It's like, but this is what every camera uses. I mean, you've just broken every webcam on Earth, basically. Kind of just a strange way to get to zero bugs, I guess. I don't know. Do we have any showstoppers? No, the webcam thing's fixed. Ship it.
Well, why didn't we see? Why didn't they fix it? With millions of people in Windows Insider betas, they should have seen that. You saw it.
It's crazy. I know. The thing that bugs, I saw it months ago.
I know. I was going to say, did it get reported? It must have, right?
Yes, but
and their telemetry should show it. I would think maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So this is right, and this is the process, right? So we have this version of Windows that has to be tested by more people than have ever tested Windows in history, right? It's just open beta. Anyone can get in at any time. Everyone uses these cameras. Basically, uses cameras. I mean, this had to have been happening all the time, all the time. So I don't. It's very strange.
Well, it's one of those things. I mean, look at us. We didn't. So here's an example. We didn't blame AU, the anniversary update. We just we said, something's wrong with. we banged on all sorts of things. Instead of reporting a bug, and I bet you that's one of the reasons they didn't see this.
Yeah.
But that's really terrible.
Yeah.
So they're going to fix it in the September update. But Raphael's fix, go look at him on what's his Twitter handle?
Within Raphael. I think it's at within Raphael.
Within, it is.
Yeah,
Raphael, Rafael. And you can, if you're handy with regedit, and by now if you use Windows you must be, you will see this. You add a D word, enable frame server mode to HKLM software. Wow. 6432 node.
See, Raphael was smart enough to use Webcamgate.
Yeah.
He did it. He hashtag Webcamgate. And then make sure enable frame server mode is set to 0. In other words, disable frame server mode. Huh. I wonder how he figured that out. He's a smart guy.
If you could find his feed from that time, he sort of explains it. He basically says every time that Microsoft makes this kind of change, they do it in a very specific way, and all you have to do is go look for the change.
Oh, so he got the patch.
No, he just looked. I don't know how he did it exactly. He doesn't have a patch, but he just figured out what was missing. Like
he's magic.
What changed between Windows previously in this version of Windows?
He's a magic man.
His mind works in mysterious ways.
That should be his Twitter handle at Magic Man.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll think of it tonight when Hart plays that
Windows
song.
Originally, right? So,
Huh. Well, it's just one of those weird things. But you do a big update, things break. But that's just weird and incredibly frustrating. And you think it was millions of people who were bit by this?
It has to be millions of people. Yeah, has to be.
Wow. And how about the blue screens and other issues? I just gave up. I turned off my HTC Vive machine. Hey, so what that I spent $5,000 building the ultimate virtual reality game machine, and now it only blue screens every time I try to run the virtual reality software.
Yeah, but the resolution is awesome.
But it looks great. And it's got lights when it turns on.
Yeah,
so I just let it run in the background. No, I've really given up. I'm waiting for the September update, I guess. I was actually waiting for a driver update because the blue screen always implicates the NVIDIA driver.
Yeah.
So I think that's the problem. If I had time, this is why you have to really be an enthusiast if you want to run computers. Sure. If I had the time, I would try
If you had the time.
If
and
I
that
had the
time was of no value at all.
And my time was valueless. I would download all the different NVIDIA drivers and try all of them until I found one that didn't blue screen. But I don't have the time. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to calm down. I didn't have the time, frankly, to play VR games anyway, so.
Sure. It'd be nice if it worked.
Well, it spent a lot of money on it.
Yeah.
It's going to come back here. You know what will happen? The funny thing is we have geeks here who have the time, apparently, because they're young.
Sure.
And Lawrence came over. We were having a party at our house to thank our staff for working so hard. We had a little barbecue at the house. And Lawrence had brought his girlfriend. And the one thing that he's one of our editors, our newest editor, one of the things he really wanted was his girlfriend to try VR. He spent the whole party.
Really?
Trying to
get it to work.
Oh, man.
He had the time. He did not have, however,
she'll have to enjoy it
the ribs. So, Windows 10 on a Mac with Parallels Desktop 12. Does that not work? I've been doing that. Yeah.
No, that works.
Oh, good.
So, no, the point is they came up with a new version of Parallels.
Oh, they do every freaking 6 months, it seems like. And they charge you for them.
Yeah, you can actually still buy it standalone if you want, but there's a subscription service now. That's the big thing.
Oh, that would be a good idea.
The reason I mention this is last year I did a test of the various ways in which you could run Windows on a Mac. And to my surprise, I discovered it was actually better to run it virtualized than it was to dual boot with Boot Camp. And if you think about, I think for a lot of people who are kind of enthusiast types, it's like, well...
Wait a minute, say that again?
It's actually more efficient.
You mean faster?
If you have 8 gigs, yeah, it actually runs better. And the reason is that the Windows on a Mac, like in Boot Camp, is not efficient at all. Like Apple provides it with the worst possible low-level drivers, and it's really designed to fail. The trackpad never works right.
Interesting.
There's all this kind of third-party baloney you can add to it to kind of make it work, but it always crashes. It never works properly. And if you think about the real reason someone would want to put Windows on a Mac, right? It's not to run Windows. It's to run Windows applications. And they have a mode where you can, it's like, I can't think of the name, a continuum, a confluence, or whatever it is, where you basically are just running apps from the dock. And it doesn't matter if they're in Windows or on the Mac, and they run side by side. And you can use all the Mac or Windows keyboard shortcuts and all that kind of stuff.
That's really handy, by the way. If you have to run one Windows program, you just keep running your Mac. And you launch that program.
It works good. It works really well. And they have this kind of stuff where, it's Windows 10. So what you don't want is your VM rebooting in the middle of a work session or whatever. So they allow you to schedule Windows updates from outside of Windows. And they have some other kind of, nice little Windows 10 features. So this is something to absolutely look at. If you have any interest at all in running Windows applications on a Mac for some reason. I haven't tested it again versus Boot Camp this year, but based on my experience last summer, it was literally a year ago.
Because I've always told people, oh, no, install it bare metal with Boot Camp because it'll run better.
Just, the thing is...
It makes sense what you say, though. Yeah.
You have to use at least Boot Camp. Like, you don't want to wipe out Mac OS 10 because OS 10 is the only way that you can install firmware updates and all that kind of stuff. But, yeah, the way that they apply it to the disk it's broken from the get-go. So it's never going to be as good as Windows would be on that exact hardware otherwise. When you install it through Boot Camp, it's hobbled by design. I mean, that's how Apple does it.
I use VMware Fusion. Parallels and VMware are in a seesaw back and forth battle.
Yeah, they're very close.
And they're very similar. They all do kind of the same thing. I have licenses to both. I haven't kept my Parallels license up to date. But both of them let you install a Boot Camp version of Windows and then still run it in VM without a second install, which is nice.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's like a hardware advantage. I mean, sorry, a performance advantage to doing that. There probably is, I guess.
No, I wouldn't say. I just, you know what? You have one install, and you could do it both ways depending on how you feel that day. It sounds like you don't need to put it in Boot Camp.
Yeah, right. Ultimately, I still test it. I still have a Boot Camp partition for testing purposes, but it's really better just to run it from within OS 10.
So when you run Parallels or VMware Fusion, it sees your Boot Camp partition and says, "Oh, I could just use this install of Windows. I don't have to create it."
Yeah, we'll see it if you have it.
Yeah. So you don't have. You can have the choice. That's basically how I'm running Windows on my home iMac is in VMware Fusion.
Oh, and I should mention too, and this will be obvious to you, but for maybe people who are listening, in case this isn't obvious, because one of the things that people often reply when I mention, hey, this is one way to run Windows on a Mac is, well, why would you ever want to do that? I just point out from a developer standpoint, if you can run Windows 10 on a Mac, it's the only environment where you can literally have every developer environment running side by side. You can do Android Studio, you can do Xcode for iOS apps, you can do Visual Studio for Windows applications. You can develop for any platform from one place. And that's one reason that people might want to run Windows on a Mac.
Yeah, because you can't run Mac on Windows. It's the only way you can get Windows and Mac.
I mean, even if you wanted to do something like run Xcode on Windows because you want to develop for the iPhone.
No, you can't. It's as you say, it's the only way you can do all of the above.
Yeah.
And Mac hardware is pretty good hardware.
Yeah.
I didn't realize Apple was shipping crap drivers, though.
They've been doing this for years. It's really...
Doesn't surprise me at all, right? They don't want Windows to run well. Walt Mossberg always... Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I was just going to say, I tried to bypass Boot Camp for that reason. But if you do that, your Mac is kind of still in the water. You can't update it anymore. So you really need to... You kind of have to use Boot Camp.
You kind of... Oh, to install Windows on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a real pain. Yeah. Apple does not want you to install other operating systems on Macintoshes. But at least they give you Boot Camp. I mean, they give you that option.
Yeah.
It is a partitioner. True. It squeezes the partition over and makes a Windows partition.
There's some little things that make it okay. But the trackpad stuff is terrible. And it just ruins the whole thing. I mean, it's not just the trackpad, but the trackpad's the most obvious one. You're never going to get that to work right. And if you've ever used a trackpad on your Mac, it's awesome. Like, it's the one thing about Macs
they really do well.
Actually, really good.
They really do well.
A really good experience. And that's not the case on Windows.
I'm sure Apple just goes, well, the problem is you're running Windows and Mac, and you can't run a trackpad in Windows. What are you, crazy?
Yep, that's exactly how they say it.
This is like that. Walt Mossberg always said that the best Windows laptop was a MacBook.
He's an idiot.
I was going to say, and that's Walt Mossberg.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it is true that Apple's hardware basically is PC hardware these days.
Oh no, of course it is. And leaving aside for a moment the fact that most Mac products are not completely up to date with like the latest Intel chipsets and all that.
Right.
Whatever. I mean, honestly, the hardware is pretty great.
I wish you could do the opposite. I wish I could buy the Dell XPS 15 and install OS 10 in VM.
Well,
that would be
just said
awesome.
Exactly. The truth is, I prefer Windows, and I'm trying to imagine would there be some Mac app or something that I would want to run?
No, that's probably true. It's not.
For the most part, no. But I do wish I could develop iOS apps on Windows. Right. I think that would solve.
Well, can't you? Apple
easily.
Forces you to use Xcode. Yeah.
Maybe like Visual Studio and the Xamarin.
Yeah, there's cross-platform.
Okay, but I guess literally what I'm saying is Xcode. In other words, I wish I could run Xcode.
Yeah, and that's the best.
Yeah.
Interesting, but now you can run Xcode and Visual Studio.
And Android Studio.
Yeah. And it all. We can run it all on one machine. Sure. Unfortunately, it's an Apple machine.
It's a MacBook. Sorry.
Have you ever tried VMware?
Oh, yeah. No, I've tried them both, yeah.
Yeah.
I have not tried Fusion for probably a couple of years now, but I definitely
Same with
used
me
both.
with Parallels. I'll update.
Yeah,
my
it's just you just latch onto one, and at some point you just have to get stuff done.
They're fairly complicated. I mean, comparable.
Yeah, no, they really are. Yeah. They definitely are. Yeah.
Windows 10 14.393.82. What the hell is that?
Now available for one and all.
Is this 1607 dot?
Yeah. No, sorry. This is not 1607.
This is Redstone 2. What is this?
No, wait a minute. This is... I know. Man, the numbering scheme is horrendous. It is. This is 1607.
Okay, good.
What part of 10.240 and... I just forgot the other one. God damn it. I was going to say, you have a hard time understanding.
Oh man. Lord. So this number, 14393.82, is a cumulative update for the RTM build that came out just recently on August 2nd. It's all bug fixes, right? It's no new features, just bug fixes, improved performance on storage spaces, and fixing mouse events and UI layout not updating properly. So if you'll see this if you have the new anniversary update. Last week, this update was only rolling out to release preview ring, but now it's available to everyone except for phone users. So if you're using any PC or tablet running anniversary update, you'll see this.
So this is the latest version of Windows 10 for non-insiders, for normal people.
Correct. For normals. Yep.
We need better words.
Yes,
we do.
We do. Muggles.
There needs to be a better way to say this.
It is the August 23rd, 2016 update for Muggles.
It came out yesterday, which
there you go.
was not Patch Tuesday, but it came out anyways yesterday.
Oh, you're right. It wasn't a Patch Tuesday. It was a Tuesday.
It was a Tuesday, yeah.
Was there some urgency that we might not know about?
No. I think the way Microsoft updates are working anymore is the first Tuesday of the month is mostly Office updates, but not exclusively. The second is Patch Tuesday. The third is leftover patches that didn't come out on Patch Tuesday. So it's patch monthly, pretty much, not just patch day.
It's patch whenever they freaking feel
patch
like
whatever Tuesday it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of. I'm looking at all the issues that are addressed.
There's a lot
quite
of
a few,
fixes
and yet
in
they
there.
didn't fix the webcam issue.
They did not.
And yet,
Yeah.
And then mobile, as you said, mobile. Get some get it too, or
right. I guess mobile because people who are on Windows 10 mobile, only very few have anniversary update at this point. Because the carriers are kind of gatekeeping who gets the anniversary update, unless you have an unlocked phone. So NeoN said
it just started yesterday, rolling out to lock.
It just started rolling. Yeah, just started rolling yesterday. So NeoN said some of the changes in this list do refer to Windows 10 mobile, but this update was not yet released to Windows phones unless you are in release preview or slow ring. Yeah. Keeping track of this, I don't even know how you really keep track of it anymore. The way the numbering scheme is.
I don't see how you could. I can't.
NeoN does a great job. Rich Woods, who works over there, does a very good job watching this. But man, I've kind of lost track, I have to admit, on some of these.
Well, isn't the point that you shouldn't have to worry about it anymore?
Yeah,
just do
that
it.
is the point.
Just live it.
That is the point.
Don't pay no attention to those updates. I mean, for a long time, Chrome and Firefox, you just updated. You didn't know it. You didn't, it wasn't, there was, you could, if you really cared, you could check it out. But
there's something related to this. It's not just the OS, right? Because people shouldn't see any functional changes moving from 1607, whatever
These
build
are just
to
fixes,
whatever build.
Right?
But there's also apps, and there are apps that are updated that you only see on certain rings on the Windows Insider program. Sometimes they head out to the muggles, or whatever we're calling them. And
mainstream
that is
muggles.
Mainstream.
That is mainstream users.
The normies.
Production users, I guess. Yeah. But there's no transparency to that per se, right? One day you will wake up and there will be an update to the Groove app or something, and it's not really clear how those things get staged out to the different rings, We'll see things like Groove is just one I happen to pay attention to because they've really been improving it, and I like Groove. And Groove will be like a fast ring thing, and there'll be a slow ring thing, and there'll be a production ring thing, and then it's interesting how it happens, and it's not always a fixed schedule. So it's The OS shouldn't change per se, but the apps are really the bigger part of the experience for most people. And those things change pretty regularly. It's just not clear how or when.
Yeah, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I think that's we just kind of have to think of it that way now.
I know.
I'm surprised the chat room's telling me that a lot of people still haven't got anniversary update. No, I'm not just talking about phones. I mean on the desktop.
No, I don't have it on the Acer still.
Wow.
There's a related story today that actually probably is not in the notes. AdDuplex, right? The guys that do AppRaisin do a monthly look at Windows device usage statistics. And typically it's Windows Phone, but every once in a while they'll do Windows PCs as well. And this month's report, they actually looked at Windows PCs. They looked at, and phones, and they looked at what the percentages were of people on phone and PCs on different versions of Windows 10. And on PCs, where is it? 77.2% of Windows 10 PCs in use today are still using version 1511, which is the version that came out last November. Only 16.2% are on 1607, the latest version. And so that's very interesting, right? So here we are 3 weeks, I guess, after the initial release of the anniversary update, and only 16% of computers have been updated. And so that kind of gives you an idea of when they talk about rolling it out over time, it seriously is rolling out over time.
Somebody in the chat room said, oh, maybe they slowed it down because of this camera thing, but that doesn't sound right, especially if they pushed out a big update yesterday. That's not.
You never know. I mean, well, by the way, the one way you could slow it down to address the camera update is a lot of people who don't get these updates till later, and this was true RTM, it was true 1511, I'm sure it's still true today, is they'll examine your system components. And if you have, like, say, a video driver would be a typical one where your video card, for whatever reason, the latest version of the driver hasn't been certified for, let's say, 1607 in this case, you won't get that update until your video driver is updated. And the camera literally, I mean, I'm not saying they're doing this, they've never said, but it is actually possible.
Oh, that may be a stopper.
They could block the update coming to your PC because you have this camera attached to it.
Oh, yeah.
It's possible.
They could have just added that to the database of blockers.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know that they did, I mean, to be clear, but absolutely possible.
Oh, that would make sense, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a musical interlude.
Finally.
Yeah, we've been waiting. Can you?
Jeez. Honestly, the Windows 95 commercial was better.
Should I run the Windows 95 commercial?
Yeah,
this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is a terrible video. This is what videos were like in 1995.
This video's from before that. I mean, the song.
That's the official one. You're right. So this, how old is the song?
The album probably came out in 1981-ish. I mean, it's right. The Tattoo, whatever.
So it is the 20th anniversary of Windows 95.
21st.
21st. It's 21.
This exact day, 21 years ago. August 24th.
I remember going to I remember going to an event in a tent.
Me too.
That was a satellite event, I think, right?
Yeah.
For the
I went to
launch.
the real one. It was in a tent.
It was also in a tent. Well, we had the tent in common then. Here's the ad that you saw. No,
for some reason, but no, this is something else.
This is too dated. It says Windows 95 commercial, but maybe this is somebody
to do more than one thing at a time.
Yeah, but this is not the Start Me Up ad. Actually, that ad, the original Windows 95 ad with the Start Me Up music, is pretty
Windows
cool.
95.
I'll see if I can
It's
find
still
it.
pretty cool.
It's hard to believe how dated this looks.
Yeah.
Start Windows 95.
God, it didn't. Windows. Where do you want to go today? Remember that? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That was the slogan. Well, all right. Well, let me look for some other Windows 95 ads. It's funny. 21 years ago doesn't seem that long, and yet
it seems really long.
it seems really long. This is the same. Trying to find the one with the Start Me Up. Let's see. What if I search for Windows 95 ads Start Me Up? How about that? I bet you they'll. YouTube.
Maybe you have to Bing it.
Is there
you have
anything?
to Bing it to get it.
Is there anything it can't do? Here you go. There's the Brian Eno sound. Start exploring. Amazing 4 frame per second video.
Yep, 160 by 120.
Start learning. Oh man, this looks so old. Make a boat. Sell some flowers. Start connecting with a tiny little laptop and a giant CRT. Wow. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's my favorite animation. The file copy animation, where you have a little
the paper like
little
flips in
piece
the air
of
as it
paper
copies.
flying from one folder to the other.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Glad they got rid of that. Holy cow. I have to stop playing the audio because, first of all, you all know the song. Second, I don't want the Rolling Stones to get mad at me. Sorry, Mick. What's weird is everything else, like the cars, everything else looks modern except the computers and the operating system. That's the thing that's the most dated.
Yeah.
Everything else, you know, it's not like people, there's a perturbing lack of cell phones. But it's not like people changed that much in 21 years. But, I mean, my kids are older than this. And they seem like kids to me still. But that video, that's the size of those CRTs.
I mean, my kids are both younger than this. But I think, I mean, I shouldn't speak for them, but I assume they would recognize those things as computers. Like they, you know, keyboard and a mouse and like the screen.
Why don't you play that for Mark and see what he thinks?
Yeah.
He's going to say, oh, man.
The reaction would start with,
silly.
Is this what computers were like when you were young?
Wow.
Yeah. My son believes that the world was literally black and white when I was a child.
Paul, it was black and white when I was a child. It's like the Wizard of Oz. All of a sudden, the 90s came along and everything was in color. It was mind-boggling.
Sure. Your life was literally like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. Actually, it was the 60s that really was in color.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. Windows 95 now can vote and drink.
Yep.
My good friend, Steve Martin, suffering with his Surface Pro 3.
Yeah.
And we talked about the hot bag syndrome.
Yeah.
Well, Steve,
yeah.
there's
It's
good
coming.
news.
If you like your good news with a caveat, you're going to love this news.
I know.
Oh, Lord. What's the caveat? It's not here.
There's no fix.
Right, not yet.
It's coming.
Yeah. And they at
is the
least did
Surface
say
3,
they confirmed it's a software fix too, which
right.
is good.
That's good news.
Right.
That woman is looking at that building over there thinking, do you think I could hum this thing hard enough to land it right on top of it?
I hit one of those cranes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it feels to him, and I think it feels to others like the Surface Pro 3 is orphaned.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little bit. You got this. You should have bought a 4 or something.
Yeah. Right. It's sort of hard to say at this point.
I'd like to read your article about the real story behind Microsoft's Surface success.
Right.
But it's $42.
So here's what I'm going to do.
What
I'm going to tell you what it says.
Okay.
But if you're not a premium subscriber, I need you to stop listening for a few seconds.
I want this article.
So Business
I
Insider
just have to
wrote what I would consider to be kind of a puff piece about the Surface business. In fact, they wrote a couple more, at least one more. I've seen a second story. It was clearly written with the cooperation of the Surface team, right? So there were pictures of Surface prototypes and blah, blah, blah. And it really did kind of it was a very positive story about how they learned from their mistakes, and together we banded as a team and we overcame our challenges. And, and it's like, yeah, that's not actually how things happened at Surface. So I thought that, I first of all, I thought it was interesting that this came from Business Insider. They have what I would assume is a fairly antagonistic relationship with Microsoft, but
Actually, no.
No, they don't. Okay.
The guy who wrote this wrote an article saying he loves the Surface more than anything, and he gave up his iPad, and he's a Surface convert. And
now we know
remember
who
that
got
awkward picture of somebody using it on their lap, but it wasn't really lappable.
That was him?
That was this guy. Yeah.
But Mary Jo, I wrote a story called Surfacegate. How come they don't love me?
I don't know. You're
They
the
love
guy.
you. No, they love you. They love you.
No, I look, whatever. I don't care about the access really. My point is only that this is a very surface story about what happened with Surface. I mean, the couple of things that I happen to know about from behind the scenes that I think really do impact the story are not in the story. And one of them, for example, is that when Satya Nadella took over at Microsoft, of course, he looked at all of the businesses that Microsoft had, made some decisions about what was going to happen going forward, made some strategy changes and so forth. One of the big things that happened that year was the event at which they launched the Surface Pro 3. The Surface Pro 3 was the side story at that event. The big thing was the Surface Mini. In fact, I had gotten.
So this is when Satya Nadella had just started.
Yeah,
this
was
been his
hired
first
that
event,
right? And Surface Mini was the big story. In fact, I had gotten all this leaked information about it, and in a very, in fact, you guys, since you both have access to my meeting notes, can probably go find it. But there's a link, or there was in one of the discussions I had with my source. In sort of a throwaway line, he said, "Oh, and there'll be another Pro device." I mean, it was all Surface Mini, Surface Mini, Surface Mini. Oh, and there'll be another Pro.
Interesting.
Surface Mini actually went into production. It was a Windows RT device, remember?
Yeah.
Yep.
And
they built them. They made them.
Yeah, Nadella and his senior leadership team killed it after it went into production. They killed it.
It was the
They built thousands.
It was
of them.
the first act, right? Really, Nadella's first big act, right? Was killing Mini.
Right, they killed it.
Yeah.
So there's that, right? I mean, I think to me that's like a big part of the story, because in this little rah-rah piece, it's like, our Windows RT didn't do enough, and we had to switch to, x86. Customers demanded it and everything.
Here's a cute picture of Stephen Elop with.
Poor
that's
Stephen.
Cute.
Et tu, Elop. The other thing is branding, and I think this is really important. Nadella, rather, is pushing this One Microsoft thing, and you see it everywhere, like One Microsoft everywhere. Surface Pro 3 was the last Surface product to ship with Surface branding on it. And this is something that Nadella changed.
I do have to give Matt Weinberger credit for this picture.
Well,
it would have a Surface Pro 4 on the left, an iPad
would have been funnier
Pro
if
on
they
the right.
both didn't say I'm with stupid, but
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, no, I think that's the joke, right? Is they both diss the other guy.
Panos Panay tried to stop Microsoft branding from going on the laptop. He thought Surface was the important thing,
right?
And again, they just sort of make it. It's just like everyone's a happy family, and we have all moved forward. And it was like, no, he fought that very hard. And today Panay runs all of their hardware. I mean, he obviously made the right decision by going along with the Microsoft thing there. But if you look at a Surface Pro 4, Surface Book, or any of the other, I guess Surface 3, whatever, it doesn't say Surface on it. It says Microsoft. There's a Microsoft logo.
Oh, interesting.
That's One Microsoft, right? Because Microsoft is more important than these sub-brands. It's more important than Surface. It's more important than Windows. It's more important than Office. It's, Microsoft is the thing that has to survive. It's not enough for these individual businesses to survive. So I just think stuff like that is kind of important parts of the story. And, unfortunately, when like I've written various things, you go and talk to a team at Microsoft and you tell the story about how they made this version of the OS, it's fine. I don't mind that kind of thing, but there's really important parts to this that just were left out. And this is the danger of getting in bed with Microsoft, in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. You're only going to get their side of the story, So, great. Surface is a huge success. But the way they got there was that they made a lot of mistakes. He does highlight the $900 million loss they took on Windows RT, the first version, and all that. But I remind you, after that $900 million loss, Panos Panay shipped one more RT device and wanted to ship a third one. Like, he really didn't get the message on that. So,
but to their credit, they kept trying, and they finally did come up with a very, very good product.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's a product that did not invent, but has essentially formalized a new product category, which is something that Apple does all the time.
Yeah.
And actually, that's the other problem I have with this. It's like
Apple's even copied them at this point.
Right, but they built, they built a computer that was so great, even Apple wanted to copy it. I mean, Apple's been copying for a long time.
Wow,
I mean, but Apple takes ideas that other people created, and they improve on them. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But they rarely come up with like a brand new thing, especially since the iPhone.
I think the other thing that would have been interesting in that article, although it would have been hard to prove it, is a lot of people think Microsoft did Surface RT and ARM-based Surface because at that point they were kind of on the outs with Intel. So the Microsoft Intel ARM thing would have been super interesting in that story too. But, proving that would have been tough.
You could speculate.
So, yeah.
It's business
but you could have found people to speculate.
Right.
Yeah. It's always easy to say.
That's an interesting insight into the mind of a journalist.
Yeah.
If you,
I'm like, that's what I would have tried.
I have a speculation. Let me find somebody to give me a quote.
Man, who doesn't do that? I think everybody does.
I love that. No, that's great.
Yeah. But the other interesting thing about the timing on this, of course, is we don't think there are going to be any more major new Surfaces this calendar year, right? We think next year is going to be the next ones, and
I think you're right, but
right.
But please scroll to the bottom of this article.
What is
the bottom of this article? And it is tied to a quote from Panos Panay. Let me just get to the bottom of it. Says. Panos Panay is focused on the future with more to come from Surface. Reports hold that Microsoft will be announcing updates to the Surface Book and an all-new Surface in One desktop PC later this year.
Wow.
And then it ends on a quote from Panos Panay. Want to light me up? Let me give people something new.
Yeah.
Now, this is a guy tying a quote from Panos Panay to a statement that he made in print. It doesn't mean that these things happen side by side in real life. But you see how he made this connection, and that also kind of sucks, right? I mean,
I don't think there are going to be any updates to the Surface Pro family or the Surface Book this year. I still am not hearing that.
Right.
I'm still hearing maybe there'll be some change out of chips, like some minor updates to the Surface family, but not major.
What
but
would
maybe
you do
maybe
to
we're
improve
wrong.
it anyway? I don't
know.
There's no obvious. Get rid of what?
The stupid hole in the Surface Book.
Oh yeah, well, people want them to do that. A lot of people do, right?
You mean the headphone jack?
No.
No, not that one.
No, when you close the Surface Book, there's like a teardrop-shaped hole between the screen and the keyboard.
Yeah.
You know how it's...
Yeah.
That's so you can put your finger in there.
Right.
You could put nachos in there. You could drop a Coke in there.
Put a pen in there. Put the pen that always falls off the side in there.
My pen
really?
does
How
not
come there
fall
isn't a
off.
pen holder in there?
I like
I actually like the gap.
too.
I think it makes
like
it distinctive. I'm not against it, but I know other people.
No, but they didn't make it to be distinctive. They made it because they couldn't figure out a way to close the hole.
I know.
And what's that? I don't remember his name. That awesome designer. They have the tall guy that they're never going to credit. Yeah. I asked him at the launch, I said, look, come on, admit it. I said, if you could have closed that gap, you would have. And then he said, well, to be honest. And then some woman came over, grabbed him.
No, you stop.
Don't let him say anything.
Yeah, it's like they're never going to bring him up again.
I think actually that hinge was ill thought out. Really only exists so it looks different and looks unique. I would dump that. Frankly,
it also is to keep it from tipping over, right?
I know, but
it's over-engineered.
Just put weights.
I've said this many times, but I would prefer to have a non-detachable screen.
Yeah, that's right. Make it a regular
and it would
laptop.
be thinner. Yeah. You wouldn't need a battery up there that would prevent the tilting thing they're so worried about.
It's the best one of the best Windows laptops out there is the Dell XPS 13. Light, thin screen with no bezel and no hole.
No hole. I know, but it also doesn't have a webcam at the top of the screen.
I know, that's the bad thing. It's a nasal cam.
Yeah, it's an up chin cam.
Up nose cam.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm wondering if they buried those Surface Micros, what is it, Micro Mini?
Minis.
Surface Minis next to the ET cartridges in Alamogordo. I think they're all in the same dump.
They're around. I've seen people have sent me pictures of them. Yeah, there are Microsoft employees that have them.
I would love to get one of those.
has hinted that he uses one.
Brad held one, right?
Yeah, Brad saw one in person.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to get one of those.
I know. We all would love to get one. I think they should auction them off for charity or something and let us bid on them.
You think there were thousands?
So, would anyone want to run a Windows RT 8.1?
No.
That's the
why not?
problem, right? If it ran Windows 10 Mobile, that would be interesting.
Yeah, no, I'll take it with Windows 8.
And then Leo would put Linux on it somehow. And,
yes.
There you go.
Yep. Free BSD.
It's either Linux or Doom. One or the other.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish we could get
send
them.
us one.
I've never seen one in person, but I think it'd be fun to try one out.
I will frame it. I will put it in our tech museum.
It's real.
Yeah.
They should put one in the Microsoft Museum. I guess not. It's a bad chapter.
Do they pretend it never existed? They
Actually,
kind
I
of
don't
did.
think it's
they
a bad
pretend it
chapter.
never existed.
Honestly, that was a decisive decision that was the correct decision.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
It
was
that
gutsy.
thing never should have gotten that far, but for him to say no to that at that point was the right thing to do. When you go to market with something you know is going to be a dog, which is what they did with Windows 8, by the way, which is I'm sure is what they did with the original Surface. The Kin was stabbed in the back by Verizon, but they priced it the same as a smartphone. It was and the data plan was the same as a smartphone.
Tell you what, I gained some respect for Satya Nadella that day.
Yeah.
I thought that is a very decisive CEO who knows where he's going, knows what he wants, and is willing to really take a big hit.
I know. Yeah.
To do the right thing, and it turned out to be the right thing, even better.
Plus, if you want a little insight into the mind of a Microsoft enthusiast, your reaction to this news should be, oh, good, now they can make that courier thing that they canceled.
Well, I keep thinking the Surface phone, the rumored Surface phone, is going to look a lot like the Surface Mini.
Yep.
I really do.
You mean like a 7-inch phone?
It's going to have a pen.
Called it a Surface Mobile. In other words, don't think of it as a phone.
Oh, maybe
a mobile device.
Oh, that's interesting.
Surface. Yeah, I mean, in other words, it can be a phone, but what it really is kind of a mini tablet that you can connect like a PC.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be kind of like that HP Elite phone.
Yeah,
probably more than kind of,
but bigger. But even bigger because that's 6
guess.
inches. But maybe this is 7, right? Make it a little.
Yeah, it's our guess.
I like that.
That's just a guess, but I think it's fair to say that
that's a good move. I think
the HP is a very good hint at what a Surface phone would look like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go. You know what? That would be really interesting. That'd be a category buster. I think that I like that idea. There are in Europe some 7-inch tablets with phone capability, but nowhere in the U.S. Yeah. Really be interesting. Let's take a break. We are talking about Microsoft, having fun doing it too with Paul Thurrott from Thurrott.com. Well worth every penny of the $42 the premium subscription will cost you. Get it today. That way Paul will eat tomorrow.
And drink.
Yeah, no pressure, guys.
Ramen ain't cheap, let alone single malt whiskeys. Also, Mary Jo Foley from allaboutmicrosoft.com. Our show today brought to you by the new Ring Video Doorbell. There's a home burglary every 13 seconds. Summertime especially, bad time for burglaries. And it always happens, or most often happens the same way. During the day, because that's when they don't want to break into your house when you're home at night. That's scary, but that's not when they do it. They break in when you're at work. So what do? They walk up to the door. They pretend they're selling magazines or, painting curbs or whatever. They ring your doorbell. No answer. They go around the back and they break in and they steal. Most home burglaries, the average loss, according to the Department of Justice, $2,000. Wouldn't it be nice to have this, the Ring Video Doorbell? It stops burglaries before they happen, and that's proven. There's newspaper accounts all over the country about Ring Video Doorbell. Because what is it? Well, it's a doorbell that works over the internet. So you attach it where your existing wired doorbell is, and they ring the doorbell just the same. They have finishes to match all the different home looks. We got a nice kind of a rubbed bronze finish on ours. But there's a little more going on here than meets the eye. First of all, there's a HD camera in there, wide angle. And there's a microphone in the speaker. And it's connected to your internet. So the Ring Video Doorbell rings not only in your house on your chimes, but it rings wherever you are, on your phone, your tablet, your Mac, or your PC. And you can open up the app and say, yeah, what is it? As if you're in the house, which is actually great for package deliveries, things like that. Yeah, leave it on the doorstep. I'll be right there. Like when I come back from Europe in 3 months. It is awesome. They've got some great kits now and some new pieces. First of all, they've just introduced The Pro, the Slim Video Doorbell Pro, 1080p HD video now, night vision. This one is a little smaller because it doesn't have the battery that the original Ring had. So if you don't have a wired doorbell, you want the original. If you do have a wired doorbell, you get the Ring Video Doorbell Pro. And then they have some great bundles too, by the way, including the HD stick-up cam, which keeps an eye on other parts of your property. It's just like a Ring Video Doorbell without the doorbell part. It's got speaker, microphone, and HD video. You can also get the Chime, which plugs into any standard power outlet. So if you have parts of the house, maybe you're out back in the tool shed or in the gardening shed or at the pool house, in the case of Paul Thurrott, out back in the weight room, you can put the Chime in there and it will ring. You just plug it in. You don't need wires or anything. It's wireless. They also sell an illuminated solar security sign. This is really cool. So these security signs really are a deterrent. But this one lights up because it's got a little solar panel on it. And that'll deter intruders even before they walk up your drive. The Ring Video Doorbell and the stick-up cam are easy to install. I did it myself. And working together, they provide 24/7 monitoring of your entire home. Whether you're in the living room or thousands of miles away, I love this company. I love the Ring, and now you can join the millions of homeowners who are using Ring. I see them all around town now. For a limited time, Windows Weekly listeners can get up to $150 off one of those Ring of Security kits. So pick the bundle you want, but you got to go to ring.com/WW to get this deal. This is a new deal and a great deal. Up to $150 off on a Ring of Security kit at ring.com/WW. I love my Ring Video Doorbell. Just even knowing, like, when my daughter was living with us last summer, just knowing that she was, when she came in at night, it just made me feel better. I could look at the video. I could say, oh, yeah, she came in. Ring.com/WW. Get it today. Amazon has a new Universal Windows platform app. How exciting is that? How exciting. Not so exciting.
Let me give you another insight into the mind of a Windows enthusiast, which is a roller coaster experience.
Yeah.
So there was an Amazon app on Windows Phone. Amazon retired it, I think was their word. And then a few weeks later, they came out with a Universal Windows Platform app for Windows 10.
Nice.
I think only on phone. No, I think it's on phone and PC. Hey, but it's just a wrapper around the web page.
I hate it when they do that.
And the goofy thing is, see the thing on the left? There's like a gear icon up there.
Yeah.
There's like a big, channel that's not used by the the website because there's a gear icon that goes to settings, and there are no settings.
Oh.
Okay. But as I note in the article you're looking at now, once you wrap a site into a Universal Windows platform,
there's no incentive to do anything better. That's it. You're done.
No, but you can do more. Like you can add support for Windows 10 features like notifications, live tiles.
Oh, okay.
You could do more than the minimum.
But
I'm not saying they're going to.
I like the settings window.
Yeah, I know. No, that's
got a globe.
Actually, that's the offline experience.
Oh, okay. So it won't work offline at all. Well, I guess that makes sense.
It's a web,
Yeah. Even the app wouldn't probably.
That's settings.
That's settings. Change country and legal.
Yeah, it's not great.
Well, what else would you want to set?
I don't know. Anyway.
Thank you, Amazon, for trying not so very hard.
Actually, the worst thing about Amazon, Amazon's kind of funny because the Audible app in recent years has actually been updated a lot. They've done a nice job with it.
Oh, it's awesome. And that's an Amazon company, but really I think they're independent, right? I mean.
Sure. But the Kindle app, which is, I don't think has been updated in forever, ever on Windows Phone, it just sits there stagnated, So to me, like an Amazon shopping app is not a big deal. The bigger deal is Audible and Kindle.
Yeah.
And Audible is in great shape. If you're a Windows Phone user, it works great. If you are using the Kindle, however, it's terrible. It's just terrible. And I hope they fix that.
Why would they kill the original app and then replace it with something pathetic? I don't get that.
Well, the original app was a Windows Phone 8 app.
So they had to.
I think this is just a no bandwidth way to
stopgap
support the most modern Windows platforms. And honestly, I would be surprised if they did anything else other than just have it.
Plus, more and more developers are just telling Windows Phone users and even Windows 10 users, just use the web version. We're not going to make an app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the web version's fine. I mean, that was how Apple started. It was web apps.
Like New York Times is another example. New York Times is pulling their Windows apps and telling Windows users, even Windows 10, to use the web version.
That's sad.
Yeah. That's not good. The New York Times apps are very inconsistent across platforms.
They are.
Even going between
say,
Android and iOS.
I kind of like the web version of New York Times more.
Yeah, reading the paper has always been a problem for me digitally. The only place you can do it with the New York Times is if you subscribe through the Kindle and you read it on a Kindle device. Then you get like the newspaper. You actually, every day, you get that day's stories in a single file. It's not sections with lots of stories from the past week. It's just that day's story. It's the paper. And you can't do that in the New York Times app on any platform. I think there's a today's paper view, I think, on the web. There might be. But they don't offer it in apps and just on the Kindle. Very strange.
It looks like this next item might have gotten in here by accident from All About Android.
I think it did too.
Oh, I see.
Android 7 Nougat is released.
Yep.
Paul, you want to explain yourself?
Well, I don't know if you've been paying attention to smartphone market share lately, but Windows...
80%. This was the funniest story. Talk about a advocacy. I think it was Mac Rumors or 9 to 5. One of the big Mac sites says between Android and iPhone own 99% of the smartphone market share.
That's what Steve Jobs said. At Macworld 1998, maybe, between Windows and the Mac, we own 100% of the PC market.
Yes, because it's 86% Android and 14%
rising.
iOS.
I know.
But that between the two of them, hey,
that's true.
We're doing great.
It's true.
That's how you spin a story to really.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You could learn from that, Paul.
I know. I'm not good at marketing. Too fact-based.
It just cracked me up. It was like, how do you write that story and with a straight face?
I've gotten a lot of feedback from readers of my site, and a lot of them are going to Android. And
by the way, Microsoft has a very credible presence on Android. Probably not as strong as iOS, but
actually,
there's
you know
good
what?
stuff.
I think it's comparable. In fact, the nice thing, we'll get to this in the picks, but the nice thing about Android is that Microsoft can do more than just ship apps.
Right.
So Microsoft has various lock screen replacements. They have a launcher replacement. Actually, they might have 2 launcher replacements.
That's true.
And even though there's like a WordFlow keyboard on both iOS and Android, anyone who's used iOS will tell you third-party keyboards in iOS are terrible. It's like first gen. It may never be right. Apple's got serious privacy issues with everything. So, honestly, in some ways, Android is the best Microsoft experience on mobile today.
Plus, I forget which team it is, but somebody told me that the biggest demographic Microsoft is supporting right now are people who use Windows PCs with Android phones.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's what I've said exactly. So in other words, Paul, why don't you start Android.com? It's not about Android. It's about where people are. And I still approach the world from sort of a Windows perspective or a Microsoft perspective, but that's on the PC. When I look at mobile and when I look at the feedback that I get, I mean, obviously I hear from Windows guys too, although they're a small minority out in the world. But as far as, the dominant platforms, I hear from Android people a lot more than I hear from iPhone people. Definitely.
So we're everywhere.
The new operating system came out Monday, but nobody has it except a few people on Nexus. I got it too. No, I have a Nexus 6P.
No, I know.
But I was on the beta track.
Yep.
You probably were too. So those people who are already on the beta track.
I didn't get it yet.
You won't get it because you're normal.
Okay.
Muggles get it later.
You had to be in the right. So the first people are the people who were on the pre-release program.
Right.
Yeah.
By the way,
next people will be the normal Nexus users.
You're not missing anything. I don't think there's. I mean, it's even hard.
I disagree, Leo.
What? What do you get? I don't. It doesn't feel like much new.
So there are 2 things that I think. Probably maybe more than 2 things. The biggest thing that I love on this is the goofiest little shortcut, but the I think it's called the overview button, the square one. If you double tap that now in Android 7. it switches between the two most recent apps like instantly. And so the reason that's kind of cool is there's multitasking features now, like split views and picture-in-picture if you have a TV. But they don't work with all apps. Like your app has to explicitly support split view. So there are many apps probably that don't support it. And so if you can't have two apps on the screen at the same time, you can actually just flip quickly between them using that shortcut. So if you're reading a web browser and taking notes or whatever it is, you can actually, even though you can't do split screen, you can just switch between them instantly. There's lots of
that actually is pretty cool. Yeah, that is pretty cool. I never use it, but it's
battery life stuff. They had like that Doze feature in the previous version.
I have to say battery life is better on my Nexus 6P even now than it was.
Screen scaling stuff is amazing. Microsoft could learn from this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's all, there's no, I don't know, there's like no big bang like Cortana type feature, I guess, but there's a bunch of, it's I think M was kind of or even L, but M, let's say, was kind of the big one. This one is more refinement, but it's a nice refinement.
Good. Well, it's out in case you care.
It's out.
And it will be the first phone to ship with it will be an LG device. Oddly,
sort of bizarre and random, but yeah.
And then we expect new new Nexus phones from
anytime
Google.
Now.
Yeah, in the next month or two. Probably, I wonder if they'll try to. I don't think they're going to try to beat Apple because Apple's got a new iPhone out in about 2 weeks.
Right.
So I don't know. I just got the Nexus. The Note 7, the Galaxy Note 7, and I really like it. It's a nice phone, although, and we'll talk about it in about half an hour on Twig. There are issues.
Sure.
Save that for next show. You want to join us? Yeah, you're welcome to, Paul. You are doing some Android 7 tips, which is nice. I will look those up.
It's baby steps, Leo.
Now that it's called Thurrott, you're not.
Yeah, I can do whatever I want.
You can do whatever you want.
I'm going to do movie reviews.
I like it.
Beer reviews.
Yeah.
No, that's mine.
I like it. Look, see, Chromebook is getting pin unlock. Wow, that's big. It's such a pain to have to type my Google.
This is a
password.
problem on Macs too. Like it's just a goofy thing to complain about, I guess, but. When you have to type your password a lot,
so annoying.
It's a pain in the ass. And like, even like just logging in, like people said to me, well, why not just configure a 4-digit password? It'll be just like a PIN. It's not just like a PIN because you still have to hit enter. It's like on a Windows device, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're in. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no extra stuff. It's really quick. It's weird to me that other platforms haven't gotten this right. Even on Android, you have to hit whatever the enter thing is. When you enter a PIN, it's goofy.
It's goofy.
It is goofy.
It also encourages you to have a crap password, which is the main point, right?
Exactly.
You shouldn't have an easy-to-type password. You should have a very hard-to-type password.
Right.
Let's get some Xbox updates here. In fact, the first big system update for Xbox One.
Mary Jo's going to be taking the next 30 minutes of the show off. I feel bad about this.
You know what? You can talk fast. It's okay.
That's true.
Talk
let me
fast.
burn through this.
This is her response. Just speed it up, Paul. Hurry up, Paul. Hurry it up. Hurry up.
Dial this one in. That'd be great. Well, as you know, the August update was the big one. It was sort of what used to be called the summer update, and it's bringing more Windows 10 features to the Xbox One. Since then, there was one minor kind of bug fix update, and then this past week they released the first what I would consider major update, where they actually added new features that are updated things and so forth. And so the big one for me, and this has been the thing that has dogged me on Xbox One the entire time, and they keep talking about fixing it, is just performance of the Xbox guide. And this is that UI that now slides in from the side when you double press the Xbox button on the controller, the white button, the one that lights up. If you're in a game and you're playing the game and stuff is happening and you want to get to the guide because you want to talk to your friends, you want to invite people to the game, the whole thing just comes to a screeching halt. You double click and you wait, and then the thing and they actually, I think they fixed it. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but so far the performance on this is exactly what I think it should have been all along. And so that alone to me is reason enough. You're going to get it. There's nothing you can do. You have an Xbox One, you pretty much have to update. So that's cool. And then Microsoft announced a sweepstakes this week for NFL themed Xbox One consoles. And back when I reviewed the Xbox One, I was talking about how they have this Xbox Design Lab where you can customize a controller. The Xbox One is Xbox One S is white. Why don't they have Xbox Design Lab for the console? You know, there are probably three main pieces, like the top shell, the bottom part, and then like the buttons, right? You could customize it with different colors and they could have patterns, and you could put a photo on the top or whatever. And I still think maybe they will, but if you look at these NFL custom consoles, which they're giving away as part of a contest, that's basically what I'm talking about. I mean, they have, you know, NFL team logos on them and stuff, but the colorization of the various parts is the type of thing I've been talking about all along. I think they should do this for everybody. So I think someday in the future, we'll be able to customize the console. You know, just once I've bought 4 or 5 of them, they'll finally make that capability.
That Pat's Xbox One is wicked cool. That is awesome.
That's just, I think color customization is cool. I think it's something a lot of people would,
Remember Moto, you know, the Moto Maker, the Motorola's?
Totally.
It was great, and people loved it.
Yeah.
I wonder how expensive and hard that is to do.
Well, if you look at the controllers, you can go through like Colorware, one of those companies. That's expensive. But the controller, when you go through the design lab, I think it's just $10 more to colorize it. And that thing is, you know, the controller is made up of probably 14 or 15 pieces or something, almost all of which could be their own color. And it's not that expensive. It takes a long time, but it's really not that expensive.
It's a fulfillment issue.
Yeah. So this is sort of related to Xbox in the sense that Microsoft's big Xbox strategy from this year was to combine the Xbox One and Windows 10 platforms. And they have various things that go back and forth. You can obviously stream games to a Windows 10 PC from your console. You can buy games, or soon we'll be able to buy games where if you buy it on either one, you get it on the other, and you can switch back and forth. And you can use the controller on Windows, and et cetera, et cetera. Earlier this year, Sony announced something called PS4 Remote Play for the PlayStation 4, which is very much like the ability that Xbox One has to stream to PCs, right? So you can stream to a PC, or I think a Mac as well, from a PlayStation 4. This week, they announced 2 things. One is a DualShock 4 USB wireless adapter for PCs, just like the one that Microsoft makes for Xbox, so you can use your PS4 controller on PCs. And the other one was that they're going to bring a selection of PlayStation exclusive games to Windows PCs for the first time. And they specifically called out popular PS4 game series like Uncharted, God of War, Ratchet and Clank, and so forth. And so I've had people tell me that this is a streaming thing, and it's not clear to me if that means it's streaming from the cloud or if you need a console to make this happen. I can't imagine that's what it is. But in other words, it's not Sony porting their games to the Windows platform. Like, in other words, you're not going to run the games locally. But I would assume if that's the case, then it's like a cloud-based streaming thing. So it'd be like a subscription service, perhaps, or maybe you pay per game. So we'll see. But they've only just announced it. There aren't a lot of details. But it's interesting that in so many ways, Sony is following the Microsoft playbook when it comes to video games. In fact, in a couple of weeks, they're going to announce 2 consoles, just like Microsoft just did. Same thing. They're not going to PS5. They're going to improve the PS4 with a slimmer, more cost-effective version. And then they're going to go for a really high-end version that will do 4K. Exactly what Microsoft is doing. So that's interesting.
I'm waiting for those because I don't have a PS4 and I want to play No Man's Sky and I want to get PlayStation VR, and I'm just waiting.
Yep. Well, you don't have long to wait, Leo. It looks like about 2 weeks.
Yeah. And one will be upgraded hardware and one won't, right? One just slimmer like the Xbox One.
I think one is right, exactly. Just like what they did with the S.
Anything else to say? I think that's it, right? We covered the gaming side of the equation.
Mary Jo, are there any game picks or
what are you
know
strategy?
what? I actually have something to say on the gaming thing.
Okay.
On August 30th, Microsoft is holding a virtual event for app development on the Xbox. So if you do a search, it's called Online Event App Dev on Xbox. August 30th, starts at 9 a.m. Pacific. It's all about how, if you're a developer, you can build apps for the Xbox, and they're going to talk a lot about XAML, web technologies, and how to create an impressive TV experience with Anniversary Update SDK, etc.
Yeah, so one of the things that happened with the Anniversary Update is that the new version of the SDK supports Xbox One games, but now, or apps as well. And the only thing you can do right now is just side load them onto your own console. But what they're going to be opening up at some point, and this event will no doubt address this, is the ability to get your apps into the store so that people can get them from anywhere. or so that people from anywhere can
I like
get them.
that. I might want to do that, actually. That's good.
Yeah. Might be worth watching. It's a free virtual event. You can get some tips and tricks if you think you even may possibly do an app that you'd want to see on the Xbox.
Yeah. Let's take a break, and when we come back, the back of the book, including some fabulous beer picks. Ick. Ix or ick? We're not sure.
Ix. Does it say Ix?
I said Ix. Leo said Ix. Could be Bic. Could be Ix. Could be Ix Pix. It's from my old hometown.
It is.
Yeah. I even know how to say it.
Pawtucket Brewery.
Pawtucket. I'm kind of sad. Pawtucket. I'm kind of sad that I lost my Rhode Island accent, or never had it, maybe.
Yeah, don't be sad, Leo.
I love it when I hear yours kind of
sound like jerks.
It's widely agreed, by the way, in New England, which of course is a microcosm of the world at large. In New England, that the Cranston, Rhode Island accent is the worst accent.
Cranston? Did you say it like Cranston?
Cranston is the worst accent in the world.
I think there was a Family Guy episode that observed, how can a place with so many colleges be full of such knuckleheads?
Yeah, that's right. Seth MacFarlane's from Providence.
Something like that.
That's right. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. When you're hiring, you are doing something so important for your company. You are building your company like it's Legos. Like you're picking, and you pick a piece of rotten wood, and the whole edifice can collapse. That's why you got to hire the right person. And of course, when you've got an opening, you got to hire the right person, and you got to do it fast. And that's why ZipRecruiter is such a boon for people doing hiring. We have used ZipRecruiter. You will love it too. With ZipRecruiter, so here's the premise, I think, and I think this is safe to say. You've got a job opening somewhere out there. You don't know where, but somewhere out there is just the right person. The person that could lift your company up, that could transform things, that everybody at the company would be so thrilled that you hired them. That person is there. The question, really, your job as a recruiter, as a hirer, is to figure out, how do I get to that person? That's the person I want to hire. And it just actually happened to us recently. Somebody we would have loved to hire told us, oh, I just got another job. If we had known that she was looking, we would have offered her a job. You got to find that person. They're out there. ZipRecruiter lets you do it fast because, first of all, you don't have to guess which job site she's looking at. It posts to 100+ job sites and social networks with a click of a mouse. So within 24 hours of posting on ZipRecruiter, they're going to start flooding in. And here's an important point. They're not flooding to your inbox, to your phone. They're not calling you. It all goes into ZipRecruiter's very nice interface where you can add, by the way, you can add questions. You can have, multiple choice questions or essay questions. You can do all sorts of refinement. And then screen out the people you don't want that you just know, well, they're not right. They don't have the right skills, or they're in the wrong spot, or whatever. Narrow in, hone in on the perfect candidates, and this is a proven process that gets you the right person so fast. No wonder now more than 1 million businesses. The number's going up really fast. 1 million businesses, many hundreds of the Fortune 500 companies are using ZipRecruiter. They have delivered more than 125 million candidate applications. And in that haystack, there is a needle that is just right for you. So use ZipRecruiter. In fact, you can use it for free right now when you go to ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. This is brilliant. This is what you need. Hire the right person fast. And you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. We thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Windows Weekly. Let's start off with Paul Thurrott and a little tip of the week.
Leo.
Buy the Xbox One S.
Leo.
Yes. Did you finally get a 4K TV?
I did.
Yay. What do you think? Did you get HDR2?
I did.
Oh, dude.
And that's my tip. Oh, my God. Get this immediately.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
That's
my God.
wicked awesome. Oh, my God.
It's
Isn't it?
It's insane.
It really does look better. Which TV did you get?
I got a Samsung SUHD. It's a 55-inch 4K Ultra HD, HDR kind of thing.
Oh, and now you can play those Which DVD did you get?
What now?
Did you play? Well,
oh, I see.
You can do streams. There are HDR UK 4K.
Yeah,
streams,
so you can do Netflix has this. Amazon does.
I think Marco Polo may be one of the worst TV series ever made, but boy, it sure looks good.
4K. There's
4K
movies on there
UHD
too. So like
HDR.
I watched the beginning of the Da Vinci Code, which is like an okay movie, but beautiful looking. From the console perspective, what's interesting is the dashboard runs at 4K. Obviously, games don't. But even still, running just like existing games, they're not HDR enabled or anything like that. I see things I've never seen. I hear things.
Oh yeah,
I've never heard.
With a good TV, even 1080p looks better on a 4K.
It's amazing. Yeah. And again, I don't want to get into like gross.
Get the Martian. It's got that great, wicked, good actor Matt Damon in there.
Yep.
And it's in 4K UHD. If you get it on the new Blu-ray UHD disc,
right,
you'll see it. I got I told you this last week. Mad Max Fury Road.
Right, which is probably the best one to get.
Oh my
Just from pure, presentation, it's just amazing. And because that movie is basically that's HDR in a nutshell. That's what HDR is all about. Like that explosive color palette.
Yeah.
From that movie is amazing.
Yeah, but it's more. It makes me so mad because now Blu-ray's cheap.
Yeah.
DVD's like $2. Mm-hmm. But to get the 4K UHD is $30. So it's twice as much. No, 3 times as much as the Blu-ray, which
it's amazing how expensive
really
that is.
Annoys me, but that's the way.
Hey, soon you'll be able to spend $800 on a Lord of the Rings box set.
Yeah, my 5th.
Yes. How many times have you bought these movies? How many times have they put them out?
When we cleared out the office, I found my Lord of the Rings DVD set.
Sure.
And I just put that on the giveaway table because I'm. Why would I watch it at DVD? Did you get it? Kevin got it. Good man.
Sure.
But yeah, it makes a big difference. Good. I'm glad. It's hard to describe. It's not just the 4K. It's the HDR. And that's the problem. It's very limited HDR content.
Right. In the same way that HDR just kind of improves some photos, right? Especially like sunset type photos or certain types of photos. Man, it just makes a huge difference.
It's not, but it doesn't look like some of that photographic HDR. Don't worry, it's not.
No, it's not. It's not right. It's not overly. It's not natural. Overly. It's got a punch to it. It's kind of hard to explain. Right. And I don't know. It's when you go from like DVD quality to HD, obviously it's like you get new eyes almost. I don't know if it's all 4K or HDR plus 4K. I'm not sure, but this has the same effect. You just find yourself, like you said, like this movie or that TV series is terrible, but you just find yourself transfixed by it. It's like remember when HD came out, we all watched the documentaries about insects carrying a leaf up a branch or whatever, because that stuff was suddenly amazing because it just looks so awesome.
So BBC shot a wonderful series called The Planet.
Yes.
And when it came out and I got my first Blu-ray player, I bought the Blu-ray of it, 1080p. And of course now it's just 1080p. Mm-hmm. They didn't shoot it in higher res. They're reshooting the whole show.
Are you serious? Wow.
And I just hope they're doing it in 8K, because if they're shooting it in 4K, they're wasting
This is the one
time.
where the original British version was awesome, but then the narrators, they did an American version with like lesser narrators. Does that sound right?
They replaced David Attenborough? No.
I think no.
Planet Earth? Oh, so good. I don't know. I only saw the British one. That's the one I bought.
Okay. I think that's the one.
That would be so sad. That's it right there. Oh, is it good? And it's still good in 1080p, but I can't. They're reshooting it all in 4K. I guess I'll have to re-narrate it and everything, but Planet Earth 2 is coming. Gosh, that was a good...
The Quickening.
The Quickening, yeah. The sequel.
The HDRing.
Planet Earth as you never knew it. I guess they say they're doing it in 4K, which is depressing. It'll be only 6 parts, and yes, Sir David Attenborough will narrate it.
Nice.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
What else you got?
I have some app picks.
We're making people feel bad because, frankly, most people already just bought a big TV and they're not about to buy a new one.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Anyway, so I got a bunch of app picks. The big one, the app raisin pick of the week is called Vinci for Windows phones. It works on Windows Phone 8.1 as well as Windows 10 Mobile. It's awesome. And if you're familiar with Prisma, which was available previously on Android and iOS, this is sort of like that, except for Windows phones. Actually, I guess this is on other platforms too.
That's Prisma. Don't show Prisma, because that'll make people feel bad. Yeah. There it is, Vinci.
And it does all those cool effects, and it's neat. It's a really neat app. It's free.
The only thing bad about Prisma, and I see that Vinci does the same thing, any lines in your face are exaggerated.
Yeah. Sure.
And it makes you look really old.
Well, there's one. Scroll down further. There's an Xbox picture at the bottom, right? I mean, it's no, Go, even if you go even further, there's a bigger. Yeah, it's just. I mean,
that's
it's
cool.
like art. It's like art.
It's like art.
I mean, that's amazing. It's a neat app. Yeah, so definitely check it out. It's also on Android and iOS. I found out later. And I just have a couple of others I wanted to run through really quick. Brad wrote a story about something called Microsoft Cache, which is a garage app. So it's not, probably fully baked yet, but there's a universal Windows platform version. There's a mobile companion app. It's basically a way to have a cross-platform universal clipboard, if that makes sense. It's not a full note experience, but it's you save things on one platform and they're available in the other. And so I think we all know there are various versions of this out in the world, but this is kind of Microsoft's take on it that looks kind of interesting. Arrow Launcher 2.2, which I alluded to earlier, is Microsoft's awesome launcher replacement for Android. This version adds the one feature I wanted all along, which is that the app page used to auto-populate based on which apps you use the most. You can still do that if you want, or you can have a normal Android-style screen where you put the app icons where you want them, which is what I think a lot of people want. And so now you have that choice. That's a big update for that one. Microsoft ported their OneNote importer tool to the Mac. It was available on the PC, I think, back in March, let's say, or maybe May. I don't remember, but there's a version on the Mac now. So if you want to go from Evernote to OneNote, you can do it on the Mac. And then finally, they announced a very early beta version of Visio for the iPad. There's a private beta test occurring now. They're going to open it up to more people and then open it up to the public in the future. But they have announced that they are bringing Visio to the iPad. I wonder if that's still available.
That's such an expensive program. I wonder what it will cost on iOS.
Let's see if it's closed. Yeah, no, it's already. They've already paused registrations.
Damn.
Yeah.
Time for Mary Jo Foley's Enterprise pick of the week.
My Enterprise pick is Genie, Genee. Genie is the name of a company that Microsoft bought earlier this week. They make a scheduling service / bot. Microsoft bought them for an undisclosed amount. They're going to shut them down as of September 1st, and they're going to take their technology, which has a special AI type algorithm underneath it, and integrate it somehow into Office 365. I would guess probably into the Exchange component of Office 365. What's cool about Genie is it lets you schedule meetings even when you don't have access to other people's calendars, and it works really well for scheduling large group meetings. So it'll be interesting to see how Microsoft integrates this into Exchange going forward. They didn't give any specifics. They just said, we're buying them, we're shutting them down, taking their technology, and it's going to be in future Office 365 stuff. So we'll see how and when Genie arises again, and in what form.
It's nice, a bot to bother you.
Exactly.
Hey, they bought a bot.
They bought a bot.
We want to, like,
Oh wait, what was it?
Want to meet you for a coffee.
Yes.
You know what we forgot to mention when we were talking Android, that Lenovo did that deal that we were hinting about earlier. To put Microsoft's apps on the Lenovo phones, and now we know what apps those will be.
They made them an offer they couldn't refuse.
The Office
Definitely
Mobile Suite,
a patent deal.
OneDrive, and Skype. Oh yeah, that was the trade, the tit for tat. Yeah.
Yep. You license our patents, and we'll put your apps on ours. We'll put our apps on your stuff.
Fair enough.
Yep.
And then your code name pick of the week.
Code name pick is.
Oh wait a minute! I'm sorry, I rushed you. This is something much more important.
Oh, sorry. Right. I have to give people an update.
Huge.
I forgot I was going to do this.
This is huge.
So, I know. So a lot of people have been asking me this week and last week about Outlook.com because they still haven't been migrated to the new experience.
Really?
Paul, have you?
I don't want to talk about that.
Okay. So
let me just see.
Microsoft,
just reassure me. I'm looking at my Outlook right now. Is this the new Outlook? Can you show my screen there, Kevin? Is this the new Outlook? Is that it?
Nope. That's
Not. If it doesn't say Outlook Mail on the top of your screen, you're on the old Outlook.
Okay. I checked when I saw this in the show notes, and
Nope.
So I
Paul,
asked Microsoft again. I asked them again this week. So you guys said end of August, the vast majority of people would be updated, right? Still on track for that? And they said, yep, still on track for end of summer. And I said, well, you actually said end of August. So I don't know if they are counting end of August as end of summer, or are they technically going for September at some point? But they claim they are still on track.
Summer end in Australia.
Exactly. I know. Because it was funny. I said the reason I'm asking you guys this is almost no one I know has been upgraded still to the new
end of summer down under, which is like
But if
March.
you have not, they say you will be by the end of summer. The quote vast majority will be done. So that's all I can tell you. That's what they're saying.
That means me and Paul.
Anyone else not believing this?
Yeah. Not that we care or anything, but
yeah.
Now the
now the code name.
You're being kind to me with both the code name and the beer.
I know. I forgot you would also like the code name, which is Project Sonoma.
That's where we are.
Yeah. So Microsoft launched a private preview of this new, it's a scheduling app called Project Sonoma. It's available on iOS and Android. There's a website where you can get in the line to be included as part of the preview. Another line, yeah. Project Sonoma was developed internally by Microsoft. It isn't from an acquisition. It's a scheduling app, especially focused on people who do shift work. So waiters, waitresses, anyone who doesn't have a schedule that's a regular schedule that they need to keep track of, this is an app for them. And we don't know when Microsoft's actually going to make this available, when it's coming to Windows. We don't know any of the answers to that, and they're not talking. MS Power User found this app, and then we all ran after it to see what it was. So it's, what's interesting is Microsoft's buying up and creating all these new scheduling apps because they believe scheduling and calendaring are key to making people more productive. So I guess you could expect even more calendaring and such type apps to be coming from Microsoft in the future. It's codenamed Project Sonoma. Huh. Yeah. We don't know what the real name of it will be when it comes out. Yeah.
And our beer of the week, La Femme Urbaine.
Yes. And it's French, too. Another thing you would like. I was in Rhode Island this past few days visiting my sister in Narragansett and got to drink some foolproof brewing beers from Pawtucket. Very good. This one I made the pick called La Femme Urbaine is a Saison.
It's appropriate because
Saison.
You are Mary Jo Foley. Now this says ferme, but it's La Femme.
Femme. Is it le or la?
La Femme. Maybe they mean La Femme. La Femme Urbaine
I thought
would
they meant farmhouse, right?
Oh, is that what it is? La Ferme
Yeah,
Urbaine.
I think it's urban farmhouse.
Urban farmhouse, because it is a farmhouse ale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, farmhouse ale.
I thought it was La Femme Urbaine.
Oh, that would have been nice.
Which should have been you, city woman.
It should have been. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, but if you get to see any foolproof brewing beers, which are pretty prevalent in New England, actually, go check them out because they are making some great beers. This one's a Belgian-style farmhouse.
What is a farmhouse
I think even
characterized?
Farmhouse ale.
Yeah, it's kind of like I guess like I would describe it as Belgian style. So not very hoppy, kind of more of a wild ale style.
Kind of weedy.
Like usually a paler style beer, a little bit of spice at the end.
Sounds wonderful.
Very summery.
Very refreshing.
The knuckleheads love it in Cranston.
They love it.
They love it.
Yeah, because it came out of Pawtucket.
Yeah, excellent beer, though, especially if you like the Saison-style beers. I would say seek them out because they're making some good ones.
La Ferme Urbaine Farmhouse Ale from Foolproof Brewing. La Femme Urbaine is Mary Jo Foley from allaboutmicrosoft.com. Always a pleasure. Do you still make beer at home?
I haven't made it in so long. It's been too hot, especially lately, but I want to get back into it again.
Yeah.
I have a whole freezer full of hops.
Thing?
Oh, wow.
No, I don't want to get the Pico thing. I want to make my own from scratch.
Yeah. Pico's more like the reason for the Pico brewer. By the way, are you, Kevin, doing that? Somebody's doing that. I saw somebody mixing up some potions.
I read about
Anthony's
it on
doing
Pinterest.
Yeah, Anthony's our resident drunk. And actually, he's more like the pusher. He doesn't drink, but he's always making drinks for everybody else. But the whole point of that is not so much the fun of brewing as duplicating almost exactly a brew that you can't get, like, a Pliny the Younger or something, because it's exactly the recipe from the brewery and the brewmaster, and then you make it precisely to their specifications, and they say it does a pretty good job of duplicating it well enough that they've done tastings.
Nice.
Yeah, but you like to have the sock with the hops and the.
I do. I like going the whole way. Like, bread machine. No, make your bread from scratch. Same thing with beer.
I still have bad dreams about Mary Jo pulling that sock with the hops out of her boiling kettle, straight out of Macbeth. Anyway, allaboutmicrosoft.com, at Mary Jo Foley on Twitter. Give her some tips. She loves the tips.
You.
The leaks. Paul Thurrott, if you've got any Android news, he's your man.
Wow.
Oh, no, I shouldn't say
wow.
that. Thurrott.com. It covers it all. That's the point. THURROTT.com. Don't forget leanpub.com for the field guide to Windows 10, which is increasingly necessary. Do you, because it's online, do you update it automatically?
All the time. I updated it twice last weekend.
Nice. So you have AU information and all that in there.
Yep.
Yeah. Always a pleasure. We'll be back in my office in my normal environs next week, I think, for the show. We do the show a little.
Nice.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I'm looking forward to seeing this place.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want to over.
But...
Yeah, and I'm holding some beer for you. Somebody brought some beer for you, so I'm holding it.
Nice.
But don't get your hopes. I don't want to get your hopes up too high. The old place was kind of like remarkable, right? It was like this, it was huge and eclectic and kind of funky and interesting. This is a little more dull. When you get here, you'll say, "Oh, it's an office park," and it's kind of just like it's
less. But it's there a brewery, right?
You're next to Lagunitas.
In fact, I have to talk to them. We have friends there about doing shows from the Lagunitas. Has a little mini amphitheater for performances. It'd be so much fun to do shows there. And actually, if we could plan a Windows Weekly, that would be the first show we'd want to do there.
Nice.
Yeah, because I don't think they're too busy at 11 a.m. on Wednesday mornings.
Sure.
Anyway, I don't want to oversell it so you get here and you go, oh, okay. But it looks the same. And in fact, for people watching at home, it should look pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But, no windows.
This from here now looks pretty much the same.
Yeah, right now. And my office will look exactly the same. My office is going to be unchanged from the original. But it's a little less idiosyncratic. It's a little more mainstream studio.
That's okay.
But, hey, it works better. It's got better pipes, as they say. 10 gigabit symmetric.
Better parking, right?
Easy peasy parking. I love just parking right there, going in the door. That's nice. And no meter maids checking it off after 2 hours. And there's an IHOP right next door. So
nice. Couldn't swing a Waffle Hut. What do you got? What's the Waffle House? Or?
We don't have Waffle Huts here. We have IHOP. That I'm sure they'll make you a waffle if you want to be fancy. Fancy schmancy guy here wants a waffle. All right. Okay. I'll make you a waffle.
Only with powdered sugar.
Mr. What do you think you are, from Belgium?
I dip it in beer.
We do this show every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. As I was explaining to the chat room, those are serving suggestions. We do the show roughly 11 a.m. Pacific. And the reason that's true for all of our shows is you're not watching a broadcast network do TV shows. You're watching a behind-the-scenes broadcast. You're not watching the sausage. You're watching the sausage being made.
Yes.
And if you want a perfect sausage, you know what you have to do. What are you laughing at? you download
As a vegetarian, the idea of perfect sausage is just
for you, it would have kale. Be a kale sausage.
Kale sausage.
Yeah.
Excellent.
If you want a perfect sausage, you go to twit.tv/WW. That's where we keep the sausages in a cold store. And you can download the sausage of your choice. You could also use your favorite podcatch application because we're on every one of them. And subscribe. That way you'll get every episode. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.